Time for a quick update on the magnolias. Here we are in the first week of August, and on the whole I would say the magnolia looks like it's doing well, but closer inspection shows that the new foliage is a little bit mottled, a little bit splotchy, yellow and green mixed. There's actually a lot of yellowing on the new foliage, and the leaves look a little deformed. So I don't know if that's just normal summer wear and tear because of the heat, because overall we've had plenty of rain and it's put on a lot of growth this year. This is the Edith Bogue magnolia. The other thing I'm keeping a close eye on is you see that dark spot right there. That's where a armillaria fruiting body, which is a fungus that attacks the roots of trees. The mushrooms came out and died in that spot there, and the reason I have this magnolia planted in this exact spot is because I know that armillaria is present, and I'm hoping it's armillaria resistant. So I'm just keeping a close eye on the overall health of the tree to try to take a guess at what's happening to the roots below. Now right next to that I have the Thuja occidentalis. This is the northern white cedar, is the common name. And this is the Nigra cultivar of it, and it's pretty tall. It's been in the ground for several years here, and I'm fairly certain that this tree is susceptible to the armillaria root rot. Yet the tree looks fine, and that's probably normal because it's going to take a number of years for the fungus to kill that tree. So this magnolia is supposed to be the plan B for when that tree dies. This is going to fill in the gap and keep the privacy screen growing. And of course, you know, magnolia is evergreen. Now looking a little bit behind this tree over here, I have a whole row of Norway spruces here. And Norway spruce is also, in theory, susceptible to armillaria. And what I want to point out is these are healthy Norway spruces, but this one here in the foreground is starting to get a yellowish hue to it. And this is the way spruces are. They look good for a long time, and then when something goes wrong, then they just start to get a little off color. And I noticed this one was off color last summer, and maybe even during the winter as well, but now it's become a lot more pronounced. And my guess is that the armillaria is the reason, which I would only find out after I dig it up and inspect the roots closely. I doubt that it's shading, even though this is on the north side of the other taller spruces, because Norway spruce is one of the most shade-tolerant spruces. So this also appears to be, my guess is that it's armillaria related. But back to the magnolia, if this little splotchiness on the new growth corrects itself and ends up looking good at the end of the year, I think magnolia may be one of the best evergreens to grow in Middle Tennessee because of disease resistance. And in this case, relatively fast growth. This must have put on at least 1.5 feet of vertical growth and all kinds of horizontal growth as well, which rivals a lot of fast-growing conifers. So one of my working theories is that magnolia may be the evergreen that is the most rock solid in Middle Tennessee. Let's check on another one. Okay, here's the other Edith Bogue magnolia, and this one looks pretty good, although there's a little browning at the tip of the leader there, which is probably nothing. And then on some of the lower branches, there appear to be a little bit of leaf spotting there. And I'm not overly concerned with that because I think I've seen that before. So the thing that magnolias are being asked to do here is survive an environment that is pretty hot, maybe soil contaminated with multiple different root rot pathogens like Phytophthora and armillaria. It's also being asked to be resistant to all pests in terms of bugs, and the surface needs to be resistant to water molds. In this case, it looks like, there's maybe a little bit of, could be Cercospora, could be Phomopsis, any one of the many water molds that are present in Middle Tennessee. And it's also being asked to grow quickly. And the soil has been slightly amended here. I put a little bit of potting soil in with the native clay, but they're not the richest soils in Middle Tennessee, and they're not the deepest either. And also it's being asked to withstand extreme cold in the winter, in addition to prolonged periods of heat in the summer. So Middle Tennessee is not a very forgiving environment for evergreens in general. And on top of that, it's not even a conifer, it's a broadleaf evergreen. So it has this huge leaf surface that needs to not lose moisture in the summer and also resist freezing in the winter. And it seems to be up to the challenge for the most part. And that puts it ahead of a lot of other evergreen options. So I'm pretty positive on Magnolia so far, especially Edith Bogue Magnolia. And let's check a few of the other species. Alright, when I said a few of the other species, I should have said one more species, because as far as I can tell, there's only one other species besides the Magnolia grandiflora, which is the southern magnolia. We looked at those. There's only one other species besides that that can tolerate the cold of Middle Tennessee and remain evergreen, and that is the Sweet Bay Magnolia, Magnolia virginiana. This one is very tall and narrow, and actually they're a very tall growing tree, Sweet Bay Magnolia. But they are evergreen, and not just this one, but many examples in my neighborhood survived the extreme cold of -4 and still had leaves after that. So let's take a look closer at it. In contrast to the Sweet Bay Magnolia, or sorry, the Southern Magnolia, the Sweet Bay leaves seem to be in pristine condition. Now I have seen some spotting here and there in the past, and actually there's a little bit of deformity on one or two leaves here and there. Oh look, I didn't realize it had made a seed cone. So anyway, this other magnolia I think needs to be part of your collection as well, because it has all the same advantages that I mentioned for southern magnolia in terms of root rot resistance and tolerance for heat and cold and pest resistance. So I think those two together, those two magnolias, are kind of like a power couple of being able to withstand almost anything. Now the jury is still out a little bit because I haven't been growing them that long, but I do plan to add more. This is this is just a regular Sweet Bay Magnolia, I believe. I have one more, hold on. Okay, this is the Silver Mist cultivar of Sweet Bay Magnolia, and it is also doing very well. Oh, is it some little fly hovering there? Just put it in the ground this spring and it's already put on a lot of growth. I mean, it's not amazing, but it definitely put on growth the first year in the ground. And we've had plenty of rain this summer to help them out. So I think of the two, the Sweet Bay Magnolia is more for wet sites where the soil's a little bit wetter, usually. So keep that in mind. And then the Southern Magnolia probably can handle wet soil as well, but if you have something that's a little bit drier, I would go for the Southern Magnolia. But they both, are very adaptable trees. Both native to North America. Like if you ever drive down to southern Alabama, you can see both of them growing wild. But even though it's a lot colder here than southern Alabama, they're still cold tolerant. Which makes me wonder if maybe in the past they had a more northerly range, because they obviously have been adapted to handle cold. So I don't know if in the past there were ever any wild animals that ate the seeds and spread them in that way, because they do have a pretty huge seed cone and it's just a red seed that falls out. So I don't know how they were spread prehistorically. But I recommend trying the magnolias if you haven't. Now I know I have a huge collection of conifers, but that doesn't mean I have to completely ignore the broadleaf evergreens. And in this case, I think these two species may have an advantage, several advantages over most of the conifers you can try in Middle Tennessee. Now the one thing I'm not sure yet is how well this holds up to ice storms. But since I've seen so many large examples of at least the southern magnolia around here, I have to figure they hold up to ice storms pretty well. I think the wood is strong. I don't know as much about the Sweet Bay, but I guess maybe we'll find out.